Great. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in on this idea of composing something with 3 notes, giving ourselves limitations so we can actually be free and be even more creative than we thought possible. So before we begin, I just want to read a quote by Igor Stravinsky from his book Poetics of Music. He's a 20th century composer. He definitely caused some concern and riots from his music, but so does every composer who wishes to push some boundaries. But he's got this really great quote on limitations, and I'm just going to read it to you. We'll put it up on the screen as well in a second. But it goes as thus. My freedom thus consists in my moving about within a narrow frame that I have assigned to myself for each one of my undertakings. I shall go even further. My freedom will be so much the greater and more meaningful the more narrowly I limit my field of action and the more I surround myself with obstacles. Whatever diminishes constraint diminishes strength. And the more constraints one imposes, the more one frees oneself of the claims that shackle the spirit. This is a quote by Igor Stravinsky, Poetics of Music. So what we've done in this composition is we've decided to choose only 3 notes. And they're not random notes, they're specifically chosen and they have a relationship to each other. So I've chosen 3 notes which are going to outline a chord. I'm going to open up the first track. And we can see we've got an F sharp and an A and a C sharp, which basically outlines an F sharp minor chord. Why I chose this, who knows? I've had a few students continuously ask me over the past couple of weeks about F sharp minor. So I took it as a sign, and we're going to go with those 3 notes. So we got an F sharp, we have an A, and we have a C sharp. Now the cool thing about only using 3 notes is that what do I do with this? I'm going to have to think in different ways. My melody is going to definitely be constricted. I'm going to have to think rhythmically. Instead of playing the same 3 notes that sit in front of me as I stare at the keyboard, I'm going to have to try different octaves and different ranges, because no matter what octave I play, right? F sharp, A, and C sharp is the same 3 notes, but it can play a bass part with it. I can play a pad part with it. I can play a really upper range melody with it. I can do so much with it. And hopefully this is going to open up some ideas for you, how to put stuff together with limited detail or limited input. And it's not necessary to have all these extra things. I've even limited myself in a sense of only using Expandy, except for maybe the bass line. I think I used something from Reactor. But nonetheless, we limited ourselves in as many ways as we could. And as you'll see as we go through, I have not limited myself in the use of, since trying to come up with different rhythms that will feed off each other, and then also playing them over 4 octaves on my different parts. So let's take a look at this first part. The drum loop's got nothing to do with it. I just shove that in. So we'll take a quick listen to that. I'm going to quickly mute all of these and we'll open up the drum loop. You can hear that going on, and then we'll start with our first pad, which includes our chord. So let me just... Oh, they are playing. Great. So let's check this out. I'm going to play a drum loop for you. Typical straight down the line house beat, but let's hear it. Great. So if you feel like dancing while you're listening to this, no problem. Let's do this. Okay, I'm going to unmute the first one. I've given this, I haven't set this in the C3 range, so it's not from middle C up. I've raised it up another octave, just purely so it enables me to have some space to bring in some lower stuff. And when I add my bass line, which is quite a bit lower, down by C1, I've got all this middle ground to still play with over my 3 notes. So I'm going to play it again, and we're going to just listen to it with my pad and just check how it sounds. Great. Already we got something going. I'm going to open up the bass. Now, at the moment it's only sitting on F sharp. My chord is F sharp, so I'm going to give it a bass of F sharp. I don't have to keep it like this though. Where I got my rhythm from is if you listen to the drums, Great, so I've decided, let me copy that to the bass, because the bass and drums, you want to support each other. So let me unmute this. It's only going to be playing on F sharp, but cool, let's check it out. It already creates a vibe. Here we go, 3, 4. Cool, nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with that. And if you want to go with that, go with that for 2 or 3 minutes if you want and add stuff in. People will dig it. But we've got other notes to choose from. So we've got an F sharp, we've got an A, and we've got a C sharp. So what if I just take every second bar, I'm going to raise that to the A, which is a minor third above. It's going to give us a bit of a cool vibe. So let's stop this for a second. I'm going to grab this. Wow. I'm going to take the other, whoops. Push shift for help. Great, I'm going to raise this up to an A. Cool, let's play it again. Just check out the vibe. Just by making a subtle shift like that, 2 notes. Fantastic. Okay, let's funk it up a bit. Let's add some octaves in. I'm going to just grab this so that it continues to loop and make some changes as we go along. Actually, I'm going to stop this so we don't. Great, and I'm going to actually do the same with those A's. I'm going to raise them up to the F sharp as well. I'm just going to emphasize the fact that I am in a key of F, but because my bottom note is an A, it's going to still give me some room to play with. So let's check this out. Let me just loop it so we can get into the vibe a bit. So far, I've used nothing but those 3 notes. F sharp in the bass, jumping up to an octave. Groove is everything, so don't mess with that. We've got an A, back to the F sharp, up to the A. So I'm still keeping it within the same key, but using, I suppose what we could call an inversion, but it's creating a nice bass movement and a nice vibe. Great, so we've got our pad going, giving us a bit of couch to relax on, something to swim around in. Got a bass line, giving it a bit of groove with the drums. So let's close this up. And I'm going to open up my chords. So I've chosen just another really simple synth sound. I haven't gone crazy. I didn't spend a lot of time searching for sounds. It was more about let's just quickly create something with rhythm. And so here I've brought in some synth chords. And I've actually brought it, so my bass is now sitting within the range of C1. Pads are at C4. So now I've got C2 and C3 to mess around with. So I'm going to bring my pads in at C2. And what do you know? Exactly the same notes. F sharp, A, and C sharp. If I had to slightly shift them over, let me just do that quickly, and I'll show you with this one. If I shifted this over 1 bit, these are going to be hitting at exactly the same time as the bass. Nothing wrong with that. It might actually sound pretty cool. Everything would be moving in parallel rhythmically and creating a vibe with that, but I shifted them over just 1, so instead of it's now gives a bit of more rhythmic play. And if you take a look at some African drumming stuff, it's just this awesome polyrhythm layers of people hitting their hits or their percussion hits at different times, but as one unit, it just creates this amazing sound. So we can do the same thing harmonically. It doesn't just have to apply to percussion. So let's just check this out. So I brought in these. These are sitting at an octave of C2 just to fill in that space. Same 3 notes. Different sound, fulfilling a bit of different function. So my pad is consistently holding a harmony, but I've also got these kind of giving me little harmonic hits. So let's take a look at what that sounds like. Add that in. Let's go back. Let's loop a little bit. And I have unmuted the wrong one. Okay, this is the first one first. This is another synth chord. We'll get to that now. It's the same thing, but let's first of all listen to, this is C2. These are others that I added in at an octave above just to kind of like fatten out my sound. Layering's really great option as well. Again, every time you add something in, it doesn't need to be a different note. It doesn't need to be layered within exactly the same octave or on the same pitch. You can actually use even the same sound, which I've done here, and I've put it up another octave so that when it enters, it just creates a much fatter and fuller feel within the track. So let's just go back to the original. So we got our synth chords here. I can open it up, exactly the same thing, but you can see it sitting within the range of the C2 octave. So let's go back, let's listen to that. I've muted the higher chords. Let's hear it. Great. If I bring these ones in, they're sitting a bit higher. C3. Now, exactly the same rhythm. I didn't want to have anything play against it. I just wanted to enable it to fatten up my sound. Drum beat remains the same. We'll look at arranging it a bit later. But the cool idea about this is just to loop an idea, is that as you're looping, you can try different things out. Just loop it, keep it playing. Limit yourself to those 3 notes, play something in, grab a different sound, play something in. It actually, you can waste a lot of hours doing that, and then the trouble comes later when you have to craft it into a piece of work. But let's just listen to this together with the higher chords. Let me just stop and loop it. Great, I'll take them out. Yeah, check the difference. You just got these low chords going. A little bit of dark, you want a voice over top of it, that's really cool. After 16 bars in, it's bringing a high part. Yeah, it just fattens it up really nicely. Cool, so nothing's mixed. We're just, at this point, we're just creating, we're just adding stuff in, trying different sounds, really. Going through our playlist, what does this sound like, what does that sound like? So I've included a bit of a xylophone here. Now, I wanted a bit of a dry sound, something to cut through all of this thick synth. So we chose a xylophone, and if I open it up, so this is taking place C3 now. So we've got C4 on my pad, we've got my bass playing from C1, we've got the first pad coming in at C2, my other pad coming in at C3. And what I did with my xylophone is I brought it in at the same as this, but it will cut through because it's a more of a dry acoustic instrument rather than a synthesized one. So what I did here is I used the same rhythm. So if you deleted all of these bottom notes and you only focus on the top ones, it's still gong, 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 and maybe take out this last one. It's the same rhythm as what's happening with the chords. But I kind of introduce, I don't want to say melody because it's not really a melody, although because it's not happening vertically, but more horizontally, it can come apart. It can come across as maybe a bit more of a melodic element. It's a bit difficult to create melody out of 3 notes, and maybe in another video we can keep the same track, but include the G sharp and the B, and show you how to create a melody out of 5 notes. But for now, check this out. So I've separated them and created more of a horizontal groove, but not an entirely different groove, because I still you don't want to mess with the groove. Rule number 1. So I kept these notes so that, and this is still landing on beat 1. You can never go wrong landing on beat 1, and this is a kind of a slingshot back into beat 1. So let's just actually solo that, or unmute it and solo it so you can hear what it sounds like on its own with the drums. And it's not happening. I'll do it this way. Great, let's do it again. Let's bring in why is it not looping? Okay, do it again. Here we go. I'm going to start bringing in the other sounds with it. Let's do it musically. Every 4 bars, let's enter another sound. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bad entry on my part. 3, 4. Cool. cool. So arranging it will come later. Right now we're just kind of layering parts, coming up with different ideas. So what I did finally was I grabbed I called it synth pulse, but I really use electric piano and some other random sound that I found from Expandy. These are playing in exactly the same range. They're layered exactly together. I just wanted to have a cleaner sound and then something that's more percussive. So if I take a look at this now, again, I'm not messing with my rhythm too much. I've added extra in, but some main hits are still happening where my chords are happening. So it's not taken away. It's not causing conflict. I'm still using the same notes. F sharp, A, C sharp. And I purposely haven't used inversions or anything except for the bass, just to show you what you can do with using exactly the same 3 notes in exactly the same horizontal way or vertical view, but thinking rhythmically, maybe thinking different sounds, thinking different octaves. So I've added this part in to give it a bit of a push a little bit later, because now I need to create some interest in my track. So I've used rhythmic values is my main focus of this one, and let's just unmute it. I don't need to play it solo, but let's just hear how it sounds all together. So it's purely rhythmical. Yeah, works. Let's just loop it and listen to it a few times, eh? And I'll mute these two and I'll bring them in. In fact, let me do this and this so I can form a little group of them. All right, I'm going to loop this. I'm going to bring a pulse in at a later stage. Here we go. So this is everything together except for that rhythmic pulse. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Okay, I think I've done enough there. I've added a little bit of an extra thing in here. I don't even remember what sound, some random sound. And I wondered what would it be like if I took those 3 notes, F sharp, C, A, F sharp, and I just went from a really high octave and I just went down. I started on an F sharp, I went down to a C sharp, went down to an A, went down to an F sharp, went down to a C sharp, and just went through the ranges, giving it some rhythm. I didn't include it in part of the composition, but let's try it out. So here's the sound anyway. Even on its own, it's pretty cool. I mean, I could mute all of these. And create a vibe with that. Here we go. It's endless. Check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's not working. 1, 2, 3, 4. Even on its own, it's hip. Okay, let's try this. I'm going to unmute all of this. Let's get rid of that bass vibe. There we go. Sometimes it gets stuck. And I'm going to loop this. I'm going to throw that in. Great. Let's do this. I'm going to play the loop. I'm going to throw that in as something random, and let's see how it sounds all together. One, 2, 3, 4. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice bass. Fantastic. Okay, so give me a moment. I'm going to take all these parts. So just to run through again, F sharp, A, and C. That is all I've used. F sharp, A, C in my pads, but it's a sound choice, and it's an octave placement, which kind of gives it its potency. In relation to my bass, which is F sharp, but I've created a bit of a groove here, backing up what the drums are doing, and using maybe my second note to give it a bit of harmonic movement between the F sharp and maybe hinting at an A major. You would have thought so, but then the F sharp comes in, so it's a nice inversion of the one chord. So we're not breaking a rule, we're sticking to it. Here again, synth chords, F sharp, A, C, but I've included in a different octave and given it a rhythm. Again, supporting what the drums are doing. The bass is kind of slightly landing in here and just after this one, but that also gives it some nice contrapuntal movement, or not contrapuntal movement, but cross rhythms. Okay, synth chords again, doubled, but higher up in another octaves just to fatten up my sound and push the track forward. In the kalimba, I don't know why it's called kalimba, but xylophone, again, I've given a bit of horizontal rhythm instead of playing it purely as chordals, as chords or harmonic, but it does form. I've chosen the F and the C to give it a bit more of an opus sound. So I've taken out that color of the A and just kind of alternated between an F sharp and a C sharp, F sharp and a C sharp. But again, supporting that rhythm that's been kind of given to us by the chords. The bass is kind of sliding in between here, but it is landing on beat one. So don't go crazy. It's not random. It's all in support of each other. And then finally, just kind of as a rhythmic push on top, I've included exactly the same three notes again. F sharp, A, C sharp, but given a bit of a rhythmic push. And we'll add that in different parts. So give me a moment. I'm going to reset this up. You can see I did it over here, so I'm kind of cheating, but we're going to pretend I didn't. And I'll set this up so you can listen to it all together. Cool. In fact, let's just do it. Since my whole plan was going to kind of you not see this and make you think I magically put it together in 10 seconds, that didn't happen. So what I did is I've created a track only using the parts that I've come up with. All right. I'm kind of scrolling through it, and I've brought them in at different moments, dropped some out, and then obviously dropped it down even more near the end. But instead of me scrolling through so fast that you can't see anything, let's go back, and I'm just going to set it up and let it play. The only thing I did add in true house style was at least have a crash or something happening every 8 bars, so it indicates something new coming in. So great, let's just listen to the whole track, only using the parts that I've got. If I feel inspired, I might throw in that little extra that we played down here. But we'll see. Here we go. So from the beginning, here's my track. Here's the arrangement using 3 notes and then rearranging it in specific order. Here we go. Great, there you have it. Bit of a long song. I didn't realize. Yeah, sorry. But there you go. I mean, I've just used really, if I scroll back to the beginning, just your minor again. Let's get back there. How many parts? Pad, bass, synth chords, double that up at a higher octave, fatten it out a bit, give it more of acoustic drier sound and cut through, and some synth rhythm to push it and propulse it along. I felt inspired a little bit through, 3/4 of the way through, so I added in a little extra. Perhaps didn't work so much here at the end, but nonetheless, that's experimentation. That's what you do. Have fun, play around, choose 3 notes, but not random notes. Make sure they're in relationship to each other and see what you can come up with. So yeah, limit yourself. Limiting actually offers you limitlessness. Let me say that again. Strange as it does, but it does. So experiment with that. There's so much that can be done by actually experimenting with, by limiting yourself to focus and enabling yourself or opening yourself and forcing yourself rather to focus on other issues such as range or such a choice of instrument or such things as rhythm and how they can support each other and maybe play off each other rather than trying to constantly add in something new or change the chord progression or add in a bunch of different notes. It's not necessary. There's some great artists out there who have done this. Black Coffee, I mean, I stole this whole example kind of from him, but a really great remix by Inu Napa, Chelsea Coma, and Jacko, the song called Waves. A wonderful example. I mean, it's even more minimalistic than this, but such a great song and such a great remix and a hit. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Maybe what we'll do next time is just, instead of grabbing 3 notes, we'll include the 2 little tensions in between, the second note and the fourth note, and just how you can even push a simple idea so much further by just the addition of 2 more notes. Great. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you or hear you or read your comments at a later stage. Have a fantastic one. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.